You can draw this in Procreate. Let's create pancakes. Of course, I would prefer creating real ones, but these sure are a lot healthier. And in my opinion, a lot more fun to make. You don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate to be able to follow this tutorial. I will guide you through every single step. And once you have watched this video all the way till the end, don't forget to share your work on Instagram, for instance. Tag me in the image, not just in the description, so I will be able to find it. And perhaps we'll see your work in the next video. And if you are enjoying these You Can Draw This video tutorials, and if you want to make sure that I'll keep making more, then you can support this channel, of course. You can just hit that thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, of course. And if you want to do even more, then you can join my community at Patreon. There, you won't just get loads of brushes, but you'll also be able to follow even more Procreate video tutorials. And as a patron, you'll be able to send in your artwork for the customizing your art videos. Anyhow, let's just get started with this tutorial. First of all, the canvas, it's 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. The color profile is set to sRGB. Still, the colors could look a little bit different due to different devices, but also our video editing, of course. Don't worry about that. I have created a color palette for you. You can download that for free through the link in the description. And that's it for the announcements. We are ready to get started. First thing we'll do is go to the layer menu. These two little squares, we'll click background color. And we will pick this first color in the color palette. And then we will create our first pancake. Let's go to the layer menu again. And now we are on layer 1. And for the brush, we are going to use a brush from my treasure chest. You can get it for free by going to freefromflow.com. We are going to use the fine liner brush. And for the color, we are going to pick this color over here. And we are just going to draw an oval. Let me zoom out just a little bit by pinching. Let's draw an oval. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to a quick shape. And then you can click Edit Shape. And you can change it a little bit. Let's go for something like this. Maybe a little bit smaller. And then you can drag in the color to fill it. You might need to adjust your color drop threshold by dragging your pen to the left or the right. Make sure that you are at the point where it's not spilling all over. And then you might need to zoom in and check these little edges. You can make it a bit more wobbly. That's okay for our pancake. And now we are going to duplicate this layer. Let's go to the layer menu, slide to the left and click duplicate. And then go to the bottom one. Let's pick this light color over here and drag it onto the shape. You can't see it, but when you look at the layers, you can see that the lower one is lighter now. Next, we'll go to the arrow here at the top. Make sure that it's set to uniform. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And then drag it down. And you can see I have snapping turned on. And that's why you're seeing that little line. So we can see that it's still centered. Now we'll go back to the brush. Just click the brush. And you can zoom in a little bit. And just go along the edge. Make it a little bit thicker even. And on this side as well. And just for your info, the brush is at 100% opacity. And I'm at 17% size. But you can play around with that. Alright, now we have some nice thickness for our pancake. But it's looking super boring. I want it to be a bit more wobbly, looking like a real pancake. And we are going to use the liquefy tool for that. First, let's go to the top layer 1. Then go to the magic wand, the adjustments menu, and then click liquefy. You can see that I have it set to push. Pressure is set to max and distortion and momentum are turned off. You can play around with the size. If you make your brush big, you can move bigger areas, and if you make it small, you can move smaller areas. Now let's make our pancake a bit more wobbly. Just going to push and pull some areas for some bigger areas, and then you can make the brush smaller, like for instance 26%, and make some smaller wobbles. Just push and pull along the edge. To make your pancake look more pancakey. We'll do the same for the layer below. So we'll click that lower layer, then the magic wand again, and then liquefy. Now let's make this a bit more wobbly as well. Again, just along the edges. Until you have something that looks like this, then we'll go to the layer menu again. We'll go to the top layer, click that layer, and we are going to turn on alpha lock. That way we will only be able to paint on the shape of that pancake top. And we are going to add some texture. We'll still be using a brush in the treasure chest. We're going to use the Is It Grunge brush now. And for the color, we'll pick this darker color over here. The opacity of the brush is at 100%, and let's set the size to 35%. And let's just go over the pancake, giving it some nice texture. Let's also add some lighter color. Let's use this color. And let's also add some lighter touches to our pancake, giving it a bit more variation. Now we'll do the same for the other layer, the bottom layer one. Let's click it, turn on alpha lock first, and then first let's pick this color, the darker color. Now let's go over the left side, adding some darker colors there. And then let's switch to this light color over here and add some lighter touches on the right side. For this illustration, I want a stack of pancakes. Now we don't have to draw every pancake individually. We can just duplicate this one. First, let's merge these two layers. We can just pinch them together to create one pancake layer. Then let's turn off alpha lock, click the layer, turn off alpha lock, and let's move this little pancake down a little bit. We'll go to the arrow tool, move it down to around, let's say here. Now we're going to duplicate this pancake. Just slide to the left, click duplicate, and then grab the arrow again and move it up a little bit. Let's do that again. Duplicate the layer, move it up, and we'll repeat this a couple of times until we have enough pancakes for our stack. I think 6 pancakes is enough. Now we are going to use the liquefy tool again. Let's go to the bottom pancake, and we are going to push and pull that pancake by going to the magic wand, clicking liquefy, and we are going to change it a bit. I'm going to make the brush a bit bigger first. Let's go for 50%. And we want to change these pancakes a little bit so they don't look the same, so that we have some variety. You can also make the brush smaller to move around these little edges a bit. Create some variation there as well. Then we'll go to the next pancake. You can also use the move tool, that little arrow. Let's switch to freeform. And you can make this pancake a little bit bigger, for instance. And then you can switch to the liquefy tool again. And you can push and pull and change the pancake a little bit. Play around with the size of the brush. And do this for every single pancake. So either make it smaller or bigger and then use liquefy to play around. Let's make the next one a little bit bigger again. So we'll go to the move tool. Make it overlap a bit. And go to liquefy. On to the next one. Until every pancake looks slightly different. And for the top one, we can keep the original pancake. Now let's start adding some shadows to our pancakes. First, let's go to the bottom one. We'll click the plus for a new layer. Then click that layer and turn on clipping mask. Now that the layer is clipped to the pancake, whatever we paint on this layer 7 will only show up on the pancake. We are going to change the layer blending mode. We'll click this N and set it to multiply. That way we can add a shadow to our pancake. Let's go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. And for the color, we are going to use this color over here. The brush opacity is set to 50%. And let's set the size to 5%. Now let's go along this edge and add a little bit of a shadow. Because that pancake that is on top, it'll cast a shadow on the one below, blocking the light like that. Let's do the same thing for the next pancake. Let's click that layer, then the plus, click the new layer, turn on clipping mask and set the layer blending mode to multiply. And then let's add a shadow over here as well. Just go along the edge. You can make multiple strokes, slowly building up that shadow. And now let's repeat this step for every single pancake except for the one on top, because that one is receiving all the light. It's not getting blocked. Turn it to multiply and add a shadow. Then we'll go to the next one. Click the plus for a new layer, click the new layer, turn on clipping mask, click the N, and set it to multiply. On to the next one. The final one, click the plus, turn on clipping mask on the new layer, and then set it to multiply, and add a little shadow. Now this stack is already starting to look more like a pancake stack. Now that we have added all the texture and all the shadows, we can actually merge all these layers. So you can just pinch them all together, and now we have one layer with the entire pancake stack. Now what are pancakes without some syrup? Let's add syrup to it. Let's click the plus for a new layer. And for our brush, let's go to the calligraphy brushes and use the monoline brush. And we are going to pick this yellow over here and let's draw some syrup. The opacity of the brush is set to 100% and the size is at 40%. I'm going to start here on the left side and we'll make a wobbly line going up here and then back down to this side of the stack. And then let's go down along the pancakes. Every time I go diagonally, then down, diagonally, then down a bit again, diagonally, down, down. And then we'll make this drip over here, like an oval, going along the stack. And then we'll go back up, diagonally up, diagonally up, diagonally up, diagonally up, all the way to the top of the stack. Then we'll make like an arch over here to the left side. And now we are going down here again a little bit diagonally every time we go over the pancake until we are all the way down. And again, let's make like this drip, a big oval. And then you can drag in the color like this to fill the entire shape. And of course you can tweak it a little bit. make this one even bigger. You can add to the drips wherever you want. And once you are happy, let's change the layer blending mode of this layer. Let's click the N and set it to multiply. Now let's add some blueberries. Let's create a new layer for that. Let's click the plus. And for the color, let's pick this purple bluish color over here, and let's just draw an oval or a circle. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to a quick shape, and then drag in the color to fill it. Now you can use the liquify tool again. Let's go to the magic wand, click liquify, and you can push and pull a bit on that berry to make it look less perfect and more like a real berry. I will go to the layer menu, click the layer and turn on alpha lock because we want to add some texture to the berry as well. Let's go back to the treasure chest brushes and use the Is It Grunge brush again. Then let's pick this light purple bluish color and let's add some lighter texture. Then let's switch to this very dark color. Make the brush a little bit smaller, let's say 15%, and make the underside a bit darker. Then let's switch to the fine liner brush, and we are going to add a star shape. Let's make the brush a bit smaller, 8%, and let's make the star shape on top. Doesn't have to be super tidy. Go for something like this. Let's make the brush a bit bigger again, 20%. Let's color it in just a little bit. Now we can switch to the Is It Grunge brush again and a light color, and we'll just go over it a little bit. Now one berry isn't enough. Let's duplicate this layer by sliding to the left, clicking duplicate, and then going to the move tool and moving it around. Let me turn off snapping. And let's make the berry a bit smaller. Let's turn it a little bit. Let's place it around here. Then let's duplicate that first one again. Select duplicate. I'll select the bottom one. Then go to the arrow again, and let's move it over here. Let's also flip it horizontal, make it a bit smaller, turn it a bit by moving this green handle, and let's duplicate it one more time. Drag to the left, click duplicate, go to the arrow, and let's move one over here. And then click the arrow again. Once you are happy with your berries, you can actually merge the layers with the berries and place them all on one layer. Next we will be working on the shadows. Let's create a new layer by clicking the plus and let's drag it all the way to the bottom. We're going to switch to the soft brush under airbrushing, and for the color we will pick this one over here. And now we are going to add a shadow underneath the pancakes, all the way at the bottom. Just go along the edge from left to right or from right to left, whatever you prefer. A dark shadow underneath the pancakes. Don't go too far to the left or too far to the right. Now I actually don't want this shadow to be visible on that syrup. Now a way to do that is by going to the layer with the syrup, click that layer and turn on select. Now we have a selection active. Please do turn off color fill in case you have it turned on. Then go back to the layer with the shadow, layer 4 in this case, and you can swipe with 3 fingers to erase whatever is inside the selection. Next we'll work on more shadows. We'll create a layer on top of that syrup layer. So click layer 2 first, then the plus, and we are going to set this layer to multiply. So click the N, then go up to multiply. And we'll still be using the soft brush, and we'll still be using this color over here. First, let's add some shadow underneath these blueberries, because they are blocking some light and they will cast a shadow on our pancakes and on our syrup, making rounded motions to create these rounded shadows. I also want to add some shadows on the syrup, but I don't want to go outside of the syrup shape. So we can use a selection again. Let's go to layer 2, click it, turn on select, and then go back to layer 5. And now we can add a little shadow on the syrup over here. On this one and here as well. Making rounded motions, gently darkening the syrup over here. I'll make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 3%. I'll darken this edge closer to the pancakes. Over here as well. Now I'll go along every edge along the pancakes, adding a slight shadow there. And on this side as well, right where the shadow on the pancake is as well. I'll make the brush a little bit bigger again, 8%, 7% actually. Just darken this a little bit more. And this side as well. Now there actually also needs to be a little shadow underneath the syrup. We'll have to go back to layer 4 to do that. But right now the syrup is selected and we actually want to paint outside of the syrup and not on the syrup. So what we can do is click and hold the S shape ribbon and then invert the selection. Now everything outside of the syrup is selected. Let's click the brush. And now we can add a tiny shadow underneath that syrup. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for a small 2%. And then let's go along the edge, adding a very, very small, tiny, thin shadow. Just go along the edge, all the way to the right to around here. You can make multiple strokes, slowly build it up, and let's do the same on this side. Let's start about here and slowly build up that little shadow underneath the syrup. All the way to here. It's a tiny little thing, but it will really help making it look more realistic. Then let's just click the S shape ribbon to turn off the selection. As a final touch, we are going to add some highlights. We will make a layer on top of all the others. Let's click the plus over here and then let's turn this layer to screen mode. That's great to add highlights to your artwork. For the brush, let's go to the calligraphy brushes and then use the brush pen. And for the color, we are going to use this light color over here. The brush opacity is at 100% and the size is at 10%. Now with this brush, the harder you press, the bigger the stroke becomes. And if you press lightly, it'll be nice and thin, but that only works if you are using a pen with pressure sensitivity like the Apple Pencil. Now let's go and add some highlights. We are going to add highlights to the edges of the pancakes. So around here, we'll also add highlights to the syrup. And we'll just go along every pancake and every little syrup part to add some of these highlights. Go along this edge. Add some highlights here on the edge. So focus the highlights on the edges and on the top parts of the syrup. You don't have to go along the entire edge, just a few parts and some parts of the syrup, adding that shine. Add a little bit here and then here at the top. We'll add some highlight to the syrup again. You don't have to put a highlight on every single pancake and on every part. Try to keep it a bit subtle and vary the line weight. Means that you'll make some parts of your line a bit thicker, some parts a bit thinner, adding variation to it. Let's add a highlight here to the top area. Then let's place a highlight here where that syrup is dripping on the floor. And then let's create a highlight right along the edge of the syrup. But not entirely on the edge. Leave a little space. And a little highlight over here, very thin. If you are having trouble making thin lines, then just make your brush a bit smaller. Let's add a highlight over here. And then again along the edge. Very thin lines. It's okay if they are a little bit wobbly. Then let's go to the top. Let's add a little highlight right here underneath. We're very close to that blueberry. A little bit over here. And let's add some highlights to the blueberries themselves. Let's change the color to do that. Let's pick that light blue. And let's add some shiny highlights to the blueberries. A little highlight over here, just along the edge. That's looking delicious. To add a little bit more interest to our illustration, I want to add a shape to the background. Let's create a new layer on top of the others. Let's click the plus and then let's drag that layer all the way to the bottom. For our color, we are going to pick this pink over here. And for the brush, we are going to use the monoline brush. Let's set the size to 65%. Let's make our canvas a little bit smaller. And then let's create a wobbly shape around our pancake. Close it here at the bottom. Drag the color in to fill it. And then let's remove some parts of this shape. Let's go to the selection tool. Turn on freehand. And let's make some droplet shapes. Like that. And another droplet over here. And then we can use the 3-finger swipe to erase these parts. Now to make it a little bit more tidy, you can go along with the brush and tidy up the shapes of these droplets. And there you have your delicious looking pancakes. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. Please let me know in the comment section. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next time for the next You Can Draw This video tutorial.